So as I said, I'm going to go into more depth on integration and Europe and then wrap up. This chart here is a diagram representing the Sage Exchange Payments Hub, which we've developed in the States. So over time, we want to integrate with many, many products across the Sage Group, but also third-party products as well. And to do that in an easy plug-and-play manner, in a very secure way, we've invested quite significantly in R&D to create Sage Exchange. That's within Sage Payment Solutions in our North American business. And I'll just take you through this quickly, but quite simply, it means that we can integrate very rapidly with all different payment types, from point of sale, web, mobile, and any new payment methods that come along. On the back end into the ERP environment, all different payment networks, and we've got up there, credit cards, debit cards. There's things like PayPal, which we need to integrate with. And over time, again, there'll be more payment networks. And then in the top, any kind of either on-premise or SaaS solution. And these letters at the top here are really significant in the payments business, PCI-free zone. So what that means is if you send data into this environment, into the Sage Exchange, it's fully secure and compliant with the card industry standards. So PCI is payment card industry, and to be compliant is actually a big, big effort. So part of what we provide as a payment service provider is customers actually outsource to us that compliance burden, and that saves them significant effort. To put it in simple terms, if you're a business, the last thing you want to be holding on to is a credit card number. Actually, you don't want to see it. The majority of our customers never see the full credit card number. That's encrypted and goes directly between the consumer and Sage Pay or Sage Payment Solutions or Netcash, and we process directly with the banks. So an example of what integration enables is both vertical solutions and functional. So you heard from Betty about how we're integrating with payments, with healthcare. Just another example here is a very specific solution working with a mobile piece of technology so that physicians in practice can swipe a credit or a debit card and get that money before the patient runs out the door. And of course, functional solutions, and I just want to focus on this a little bit. Example here is Sage 50 2011 that was launched in the UK last summer. Now provides fully automated reconciliation for customers who also use Sage Pay. And that's really significant. What that means is, and I've just taken a screenshot really of the wizard, because in software terms it looks relatively simple, but there was a lot of work to deliver this. And it matches transactions pulling the payment data from Sage Pay by customer, by amount, and matches that automatically with the customer information, the invoice information in Sage 50. And for a typical small business, that's saving several hours a week. It's very significant, and it can be a headache. And it's not just the time it saves, but of course, it also increases accuracy. So now I want to turn to Europe. There's three reasons that make Europe a really major opportunity for Sage, and it's why it's one of our group investment priorities. The first, which is what this graphic portrays, is that there's a significant growth opportunity in the online space. So the UK has been a forerunner in terms of online adoption in Europe. So that's pretty much consumers, people like you and I, buying things over the web. And the reasons for that was the early rollout of broadband and also the very high penetration of credit and debit cards. So over 90% of consumers in the UK have a plastic card of some kind. But growing faster, so we'll catch up over time, are other markets in Europe. So what we have along the bottom here are the growth of the e-commerce markets. On the vertical axis, we have the percentage of GDP that e-commerce represents. So if you look at the major economies of Europe, UK, Germany, France, and Italy out the end there, you can see that there's huge growth potential in the continental European countries because there's no doubt that the e-commerce phenomenon will spread over time. As I say, for infrastructural reasons, it's been relatively slow. So the second reason why Europe's an opportunity and what will actually help continue to drive these growth rates is legislation that's been introduced, known commonly as SEPA. So that stands for the Single European Payments Area. In simple terms, that's an EU piece of law that's going to standardize payments within Europe, and particularly cross-border payments. So over time, you'll see homogeneity between all different payment methods. And what that says is, actually, it would be wrong for Sage to address this opportunity, creating individual business units for each market. So our strategy is to create a pan-European business to invest in building out the platform and the capabilities we've got with SagePay. And the third reason why it's an opportunity, actually mentioning SagePay, is that here in the UK, we're getting more and more demand from our existing customers. They want to trade properly across Europe. So the barriers to entry for an online retailer to sell in different countries are really, really low. So going back to Guitar, I'll give you a real-life example. As I said, they're based in Newcastle, and on the same day, they sold guitars to two different customers, one actually based in Newcastle, but wanted to order online for convenience. The other was based in Finland. The next day, they both received their guitars. The Finnish customer actually received their guitar before the Newcastle customer. So logistics is in place. Everybody can access the web. In Finland, of course, most people speak English. If Guitar want to sell effectively in Germany, what do they need to do? Well, translating their website is not going to be very difficult. But in Germany, less than half of the public have a credit or debit card. So to sell online and maximize your opportunity, you need to offer the local direct bank-to-bank payment types and either be on the ELV scheme or GiroPay. So SagePay is integrating those additional payment schemes which are required to perform across Europe. And if we're doing that, then of course it's another step towards us having everything that's required to operate in Germany as SagePay. So that's where we're going with Europe. So just to wrap up, as I said up front, Sage does have a common strategy across our three businesses. We're all focused on continuing to drive additional revenue streams. An example there in the UK would be cardholder presence, so providing face-to-face payments, which we don't currently. But Guitar, and actually in total 30% of SagePay's customers, as well as taking card payments online, they take card payments face-to-face. So that means they're using another payment service provider right now, and of course we'd like that business. Secondly is to offer best-in-class integration, which I've talked about, and we're utilizing the full Sage expertise to do that. Again, for example, the SagePay Sage 50 integration uses S-Data, which we talked about earlier. And there's a key point there for Sage, which is by being on both sides of that integration equation, on the payment side and the ERP, finance, healthcare side, is we can continually improve that user experience and make it seamless. And there's no one else that can match us on that. And finally, we want, in the long term, we'll focus not just on enabling customers to collect payment, but also there's a big opportunity to help businesses make payments more efficiently. So thank you very much for listening, and I think now we've got some time for Q&A.